Everybody, hello, it's me Briggsall. This video is kind of a retrospective video about the past year. I've had a bit of time off since my second job broke up for the summer holidays, and my first job has decided to quieten down this past day or so. So I've been able to kind of think about things, thinking about how life has changed over the last few years. My main focus is going to be the past 12 months, really, because a lot of changes that have happened to me over the last 12 months, and I thought I'd discuss some of these things with you, tell you how I feel about some of them, how I feel about some of the difficult choices that have had to be made, and some of the difficult changes that have been made without my kind of consent, as it were. Most of the time, when you are depressed, a lot of the feelings that you feel are towards the past. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and make these feelings and thoughts about the past seem, relevant and as coherent as possible. So strap yourselves in, folks. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but it could get mushy. So strap yourselves in. Before I even start, some of you are going to notice that I've had a haircut. Please comment in the comments below what you think of it. I am loving it at the moment. I'm not too sure it's exactly fully straight. I think it needs a little bit of work, but generally I'm liking it. Obviously, eventually at some point when it gets long enough, I won't need to have this at the back. It'll just go all the way back. Anyway, let's move on to the retrospective, because my hair is going to come into the retrospective. It always does. Anyway, so let's begin. So about a year ago today, roughly, I was in a position where what you see now and what you saw back then was almost completely different. The house itself behind me has probably remained very, very similar to the way it looks today from when it looked back then. But the person you see is relatively different, because I've had to make changes, I've had to make choices to better myself, as it were. And the first major choice that I made was that the final click, as it were, for me to really start to think about losing weight, because a year ago I wasn't fit. I barely walked anywhere. I didn't particularly want to do anything. I just wanted to play on the computer all day, or I wanted to do whatever I wanted to do without any outside interference. I didn't really care about much. All I wanted to do is kind of just do whatever I wanted to do, which is very selfish. We all know this. We all want to do what we want to do, but most of us will not necessarily bow to pressure, but will kind of sacrifice things for other people. For me, I didn't do a lot of this sacrificing until this past year. And what I mean by sacrificing is such a heavy term to use. What I mean by sacrificing is, instead of just doing everything that I wanted to do, I decided, more unconsciously than consciously, decided that I should kind of relax a bit and take things at face value rather than look into them and think deeply about things that people ask me, and just say yes a little bit more, and generally try and be as confident as possible, because that confidence and motivation are two things that I've suffered from for quite a while. Lack of these things. So in the last year I've tried to be as self-motivating and as confident as possible when trying to do the things that I wanted to do. So about a year ago I started that thought process of wanting to lose weight. So I went to the doctor and I got onto the list. Now the list is the waiting list for some form of surgery in regards to my weight. So we're talking bariatric surgery of some description, bypass, that sort of thing. Obviously, if you've kept track with these videos, you'll know what the situation of that is. But the decision to get to that point was actually quite a difficult one, because there are two things I had to think about when it came to that thing. Will the surgery allow me to live a better life? Yes. But will the surgery hurt me, in the sense that it hurt me mentally in the short term because of the food aspect of things? Because I like food. Everyone likes some form of food that they shouldn't eat too much of because it's bad for you. I did this to an extreme, and so I kind of placed a dependency on food, which is not a terrible thing. It's just when you start depending on certain things to get you through a day, that turns to more of an addiction and a problem than something that helps to a certain degree. So the decision to put myself, or to get referred to the bariatric surgery unit in Chichester, was quite a tough decision, because conversations with me before that decision, if you mentioned anything to do with dieting, anything to do with food, anything to do with changing the who I am, I'd have shut down. I'd have just gone, don't want to talk about it. And ever since I made that decision to try and do something, actively lose weight myself physically and actually get the surgery, I've opened up somewhat in regards to the decisions and dieting and such. And I honestly think that my life has changed better for me finally sitting down and making that decision. Along with this decision, put me into the cycle of wanting to start losing weight. And to do this, I wanted to get moving again, walking, doing some form of exercise. And this led me to my personal trainer, which I started seeing in the beginning of October. And I only saw one person. I only wanted to see a handful of people just to see if I can get an idea of who they are. I actually only saw one, because the one person that I saw gave me what I needed. She made me see what needed to be done, and she put it in terms that I understood, and she made it seem like it wasn't such a big deal, that I could do it if I put my mind to doing it. And she was able to motivate me enough to actually want to do it, because that is the barrier, is you either want to do it or you don't want to do it. And if you want to do it, fine, do it. If you don't want to do it, you have to then kind of force yourself to do these things. And I'm not going to lie, I didn't want to really do it because I'm not really a fan of exercising. I was a fan of exercising when I was about 12 to 15 stone, but now that I'm a lot higher than that and I've let myself go quite a lot, I didn't particularly want to do anything like that. My personal trainer told me and made me understand that to sit and do nothing all the time is bad. It's just bad for you. It's not good for you at all. Hence, after October, I started to move forward. I started to make the decisions about wanting to exercise more. I wanted to do this. We went from 1 session a week to 2 sessions a week over Christmas, over the New Year. When I started to get referred to the bariatric surgery and I did my assessments and all this sort of stuff in regards to getting the surgery and going forward with the surgery, the background that I had was my personal trainer was there. And it made me see, as well as it made the doctors and the nurses and such at the bariatric surgery, that I was adamant that I wanted to lose the weight. It was that simple in the end. Now, during all this time, there were lifestyle changes that I needed to make, some of which were very difficult to make, some of which were very easy to make. Both of which I don't regret making them at all, even though some will say that my life, is the worst for making those decisions. I don't think that's true. I think I'm happy with the decisions I made in regards to dropping certain food types, dropping certain drink types, dropping or lessening the amount of food that I actually eat and consume during the day. That was something that I had to do, something that was very difficult to do. I don't necessarily count my calories, but it's something that I If something just seems too much, then it's too much. It's common sense now. Whereas back then, it was quite a difficult process to go through. Along with this, there were other lifestyle changes that were slowly being changed. I would start to do more around the house. I'd start to care more around the house. I'd start to care about myself, my physical appearance sense, the hair, the beard, and all this sort of stuff. I'd start to look after myself a lot better. I'd start to shower more and start to feel more clean, as it were. I'd start to work more for job number one. And this led to opportunities to get a second job, which is, my main goal was to replace the job I have with something full-time, go into work and just do that. When I had the opportunity to do a second job that came a few months ago that could fit in with the first job, it's something that had to be done. It just felt right at the time. Now, a couple of years ago, I would have backed out. I would have just said, no, I don't want to do it. I feel uncomfortable. I feel anxious about it. I feel paranoid, or I don't feel confident enough or motivated enough to do it. This is a big area for me that I had a problem with, which I've managed to solve, not necessarily solve, but overcome. And all it's taken really is the personal trainers helped me a lot, just to go through things in my mind, just to put things in the right order. All the workings of my mind, the way it works, the way it asks for certain things and the way it does certain things, had to be put in order. Once that got put in order, everything seemed to fall into place. And the last few months has been rather an enjoyable process, but it's also been quite worrying and a bit stressful at times. But that is what life seems to be about. Anyone will tell you that there will be times where you'll get stressed, and there'll be times that you'll worry, and there'll be times that you'll feel great and happy, and it's just the way life works. That is how life is. You know, someone who doesn't get stressed very easily, myself, is quite a different sensation to have. That feeling of stress, that feeling of worry, which, in all honesty, I didn't particularly have very many worries and very much stress, because I always kind of kept my distance at things. And now that I'm kind of jumping into the thick of things, or walking into the thick of things, the stress and things come with doing that. That's just the way it's got to be. And I'd rather have the stress but have the good times than have nothing. You know, no stress, no good times, just a plain old pile of shit. And I think that's one of the biggest changes over the past year, is my ability and my belief that I can do things, and that I don't feel worthless, and that I don't have anxiety for certain things. There are certain things that I have anxieties for. I still have things for, and things like going to parties or going to weddings or whatever, going to receptions and going to functions. I have a deep anxiety about all those sort of things, but I think those will get better with time. Time and the surgery will help. I'm almost certain of that. So, a lot of things have changed. Some things have remained the same. I'm still basically the same person as I was a year ago. The only thing is that things that never used to matter seem to start to matter more these days, which is more of a mind process than an actual change of personality. So, anyway, those are the main changes. There are other changes, very small, minor changes, you know, changes of scenery, changes of exercise habits, and all these sort of things which aid in the recovery process and the process to change oneself. All of which have come fairly easily to me. They've just kind of they've been presented in front of me in such a manageable way that I've been able to deal with it. You know, there have been odd occasions, there have been ups and downs that I've had issues with. I've had down periods where I've just not wanted to do anything, but having the changes and the mindset change somewhat towards these things, I've been able to overcome them a lot quicker than I'd normally do, you know, a year or two ago. As you have a down period, a depression period, and you don't want to do anything. But this time round, you know that you have to get up for an exercise period. Go off to see the personal trainer. By the time you come back, you feel a lot better than you did beforehand. If someone has told me, and I've heard this quite a few times in the past anyway, but if someone had actually said to me, get yourself a personal trainer and exercise, and your depression will not seem as bad as it is, I'd have just laughed at him and said, no, there's no way I can feel that different just from exercising. There's no way in hell that would help. It does. It really does. It helps that there's someone to talk to about things with you when you're walking or when you're exercising. It always helps that there's always someone to talk to. But if you can combine exercise and that kind of talk at the same time, things improve a lot, and they improve quickly. And you don't really need to speak about things that you would speak to a therapist about, or don't speak to anyone about. You'll find that these things just happen to come out your gob. They did for me. I wasn't expecting to talk to anyone about any of the stuff that I'd suffered, and any of the depression or anything like that. I didn't think about any of that until I started exercising, and then it all started to come out in bits and pieces. And it wasn't a quick process. People seem to think that you can get over these things. Just here's a pill, take this, you'll feel better. It doesn't work that way, unfortunately. And whoever thinks that it does is deluding themselves. Every step forward that you take comes with issues. They always do. You just got to try and overcome them the best way you can. For people who are depressed, every step is a painful step forward. If they're even moving forward, for that matter. I'm using a lot of metaphors and shit. It doesn't really work, but I think you understand what I'm talking about. Especially in the light of recent news. I won't go into any details about that. You all know the recent news. Everyone's seen it. Everyone talks about it. Depression is a real thing. Some people are still completely oblivious to the fact that depression even exists, and people commit suicide because of the reasons that their lives are terrible. Or it doesn't matter how bad your life is. You can get depressed from the smallest, tiniest little things. It happens. It happens to most people. Some people don't even realise that they're depressed at all. It's the way it is. And there are a lot of different forms of depression, but the main tiny form of depression is the fact that you feel hopeless about things. You feel that there's no way out. You're trapped, and you can't move forward, and you don't feel good about yourself, and you feel that your life is meaningless, and all this sort of stuff. I've got a really good life. I've had a really good life for the last as far back as I remember. I've had a brilliant life. So why do I feel depressed about stuff? Sometimes there is no meaning for these things. They just happen. Finding the meaning, deciphering the meaning, and learning to live with that is the way forward, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, blabbering on about something different now. So those are the changes. The changes that had to be made. There was no way around it. They just, as far as I'm concerned now, looking back, the changes that were put in front of me, they had to be made. There was no other way around. That's the way it is. Anyway, I think I've talked for long enough now. If you have any questions about anything that I've talked about, anything at all, be it trivial or serious, whatever, put them in the comments below. I tend to answer any comments that people have, and I don't get many comments, but if you do have any comments about anything, questions, whatever, put them in the comments below. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this video made a bit of sense. Hopefully, probably didn't, but hopefully it did to you. And I will see you next time. Hopefully in the next few days with an update about the past week. vlog of the week and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. Goodbye. Goodbye there.